Welcome to the channel. Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into one of the most persistent and critical challenges facing modern India, the crisis of unemployment. This is not just an economic indicator, it is a profound social and political reality reflecting the frustrated ambitions of millions of young people across the nation. To understand the problem, we must first define it. Unemployment occurs when an individual who is not employed is actively seeking employment but is unable to find work. According to the International Labour Organization, a person is unemployed if they are out of a job, available to take a job, and actively engaged in searching for work. This definition immediately highlights India's complex reality, where calculating accurate unemployment figures is far more complicated than in developed economies. In India, unemployment measurement uses various methods under the Periodic Labour Force Survey, PLFS, such as the usual principal and subsidiary status, UPSS, and the current weekly status, CWS. The UPSS defines a person's principal status based on the activity they spent the most time on in the previous year, including subsidiary economic roles performed for at least 30 days. This low threshold for defining employment means that unemployment rates in rural areas are typically lower than in urban areas, as access to family farms or casual work increases the likelihood of finding some activity. However, relying solely on the unemployment rate may underestimate the true picture, especially when many individuals stop actively searching for work due to discouragement, a situation known as hidden unemployment. Given the falling labour force participation rate, LFPR, some analysts suggest that the employment rate, is a better metric for tracking joblessness distress. The Indian labour market is predominantly characterized by several types of work shortage. Disguised unemployment, where more people are employed than actually needed, meaning their marginal productivity is zero, is traced primarily in the agricultural and unorganized sectors. Furthermore, India suffers from structural unemployment, which arises from the systemic mismatch between the skills workers possess and the skills the available jobs require. Finally, vulnerable employment describes individuals working informally without legal protection or proper job contracts, and these persons are often considered unemployed because their work records are not maintained. The predominance of low-quality, informal sector jobs is a major feature of India's labour ecosystem. Looking at recent statistics, the situation demands urgent attention. Official data showed a decline in the national unemployment rate from 6.1% in 2017 to 3.2% in 2022-23. The average unemployment in rural India in the 6 years leading up to late 2022 was recorded at 7.02% according to CMIE data. The crisis is heavily concentrated among the young and the educated. The youth, aged 15 to 29, account for an alarming 83% of India's unemployed population. This structural feature means that 2 out of every 3 unemployed individuals are young graduates, highlighting the specific difficulty faced by educated individuals in securing employment. In fact, the share of individuals with secondary or higher education among the total unemployed workforce has almost doubled from 35.2% in 2000 to 65.7% in 2022. One analysis found that 42% of graduates under 25 were unemployed in 2021-22. This is a pervasive, structural issue in the Indian economy. The unemployment rate tends to be higher for the more educated individuals. The burden of unemployment is disproportionately heavy on women. Women's unemployment rates are higher than men's. Urban female unemployment for the 15 to 29 age group was 25.7%, significantly higher than the 15.6% for males, showcasing major structural and social barriers to female labour force participation. Specifically among the highly educated, women face a higher share of unemployed. There are also severe regional disparities. Goa recorded the highest unemployment rate at almost 10%, more than 3 times the national average. Interestingly, several comparatively richer states, including Kerala, Haryana, Punjab, and Jammu and Kashmir, exhibit unemployment rates higher than the national average. Conversely, large states like Uttar Pradesh, 2.4%, and Madhya Pradesh, 1.6%, have lower unemployment rates, which generally correlates with a higher proportion of the labour force engaged in self-employment, largely of the informal variety. The central cause of this pervasive problem is the phenomenon known as jobless growth. Despite impressive increases in the GDP growth rate during the 2000s, the formal non-agricultural sector's employment growth rate remained unresponsive, indicating a strong connection between labor productivity growth and output growth. This decoupling means India's economic expansion is increasingly capital-intensive rather than labor-intensive. The service sector, a major contributor to GDP, is generally not labor-intensive, adding to the jobless growth scenario. Complementing this is the critical issue of skill mismatch. India faces a severe skills gap. Only about half of India's youth are considered job-ready after graduation. For instance, by early 2019, it was estimated that only 4.69% of the total workforce had formal skill training. Many struggle to secure jobs due to a lack of requisite skills and poor education levels, making training difficult. This skill deficit prevents the Indian economy from harnessing its demographic dividend effectively. This structural issue is exacerbated by the looming threat of technological unemployment, where automation and the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, are predicted to threaten a substantial portion of jobs. World Bank data cited frequently predicted that the proportion of jobs threatened by automation in India was 69% year-on-year. Adding to the complexity are issues such as low mobility of labor due to social factors, family attachment, language, and religion, discouraging people from seeking distant job opportunities. Also, the decline in investment rates, partly linked to non-performing assets, NPAs, has negatively impacted job creation. To counter this multidimensional crisis, the government implements numerous employment and skill development programs. Key central government initiatives include the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MGNREGA, which provides guaranteed wage employment in rural areas, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PMKVY, for skill training, and schemes aimed at entrepreneurship like Startup India and Smile. Furthermore, the government holds Rozgar Melas to hand out appointment letters, though critics argue these are insufficient compared to the millions seeking jobs. Some states have introduced their own measures, such as Karnataka's Yuva Nidhi scheme, which offers financial assistance and training to unemployed graduates and diploma holders. Recognizing the severity of educated unemployment, recent policy announcements focused heavily on creating employment and skilling opportunities. The budget introduced a package of 5 key schemes aimed at benefiting 4.1 crore youth over 5 years. These schemes include providing employment subsidies and boosting skilling efforts through industrial training institutes. One notable scheme aims to provide a monthly allowance of 5,000 rupees for 1 year to 1 crore youth for internships in top companies under the PM Internship Scheme. In the long term, achieving adequate job creation requires generating more than 25 million new jobs over the next 5 years to fully employ all those currently unemployed. Policy suggestions emphasize the urgent need to integrate an employment creation agenda into macroeconomic policies, specifically by prioritizing labor-intensive manufacturing to absorb unskilled labor. Policies must also concentrate on supporting micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, through decentralized approaches and easing access to credit and compliance. Ultimately, tackling India's unemployment requires a shift from focusing solely on high GDP figures to a comprehensive strategy that addresses the structural issues of skill mismatch, informality, and the fundamental lack of quality job opportunities. This multifaceted approach, combining economic growth with investments in skill development, education reforms, and targeted sectoral policies, is essential to ensure that the demographic dividend does not instead become a demographic disaster.